Let's talk about something really, really common, but also kind of mysterious. You know that thing you do where you replay conversations in your head long after they're actually over? So many of us do this, but why? What's actually going on in there? Yeah, it usually kicks off with this lingering feeling. You know exactly the one I'm talking about. It's the sense that even though everyone stopped talking, the conversation itself isn't quite done. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're walking away from someone, or maybe you're trying to fall asleep that night and your brain just won't shut off. Or heck, you could be in the middle of doing something completely different. And then boom, that's when it starts, the replay. It's like this quiet, automatic movie that just starts playing in your head, showing you what just happened. It's not some big, dramatic thing. It just starts running on a loop. And here's the wild part. Your mind isn't just a video recorder playing back the footage. Oh no, it's more like an editor in a studio. It's not just looking at the words you said, it's zooming in on the tone of voice, the tiny look on their face, that little pause before they answered. And then it starts making its own edits, running these little simulations of, what if I said this instead? Or, that cringy, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. Your brain is basically trying to solve a puzzle that feels unfinished. Now, I know this whole process can feel a little obsessive, right? And because of that, we tend to slap some pretty negative labels on it. But what if we looked a little deeper? You know the labels. We call it overanalyzing, or being too sensitive, or being stuck in your head. But what if those labels are just wrong? What if they're missing the bigger picture? Because this isn't just random static in your brain. What we dismiss as overanalyzing is actually a very structured pattern. What feels like social anxiety is very often a learned response. It's not a flaw in your character. It's a powerful internal processing system doing its job. Okay, so let's pop the hood and look at the actual mechanics of this system, because this is not, I repeat, not your brain glitching out. Think of it more like your brain is running a really sophisticated piece of software. And the engine running that software is something called the default mode network. Now that sounds fancy, but you can just think of it as your brain's idle mode, or its inward focus setting. When you're not actively focused on something out in the world, like driving or reading, this network kicks on. And what does it do? Its whole job is to reflect, to remember, and to run simulations of different events. So when you're replaying that conversation, guess what? Your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do. The whole process is actually pretty simple when you break it down. Step 1, the conversation ends. Step 2, your mind isn't focused on anything external, so it naturally drifts inward. Step 3, that inward drift activates the default mode network. And step 4, the network gets to work, simulating, analyzing, and trying to make sense of what just happened. But you've probably noticed that some people seem to do this way more than others, right? Well, there's a really good reason for that. And a lot of the time, that reason is rooted deep in our personal history. See, for some of us, our brains learned very early on that paying super close attention to all those little social details, it wasn't just a nice skill to have, it was essential. It was how you navigated your world safely. And this wasn't a conscious choice, it was a straight-up adaptation. Think about it. If you grew up in a place where people's emotional reactions were unpredictable, or where approval always felt like it came with strings attached, your brain didn't just casually observe conversations. No way. It learned to study them. It basically became a detective, always scanning for clues in someone's tone or the look on their face, just trying to figure out what was really going on beneath the surface. And that inner detective, it doesn't clock out just because the conversation is over. And this brings us to this really interesting paradox, because this heightened awareness, this inner detective, it's a double-edged sword. It's an incredible strength, but it's also a huge challenge. And here's the absolute heart of it. That incredible ability you have to understand people on a deep level, to pick up on all the subtle stuff, to really feel empathy, to notice the things that everyone else misses, that comes from the exact same mental machinery that gets you stuck in that conversation loop. You can't separate the strength from the struggle. They're two sides of the same coin. So, what does that struggle actually sound like inside your head? Well, it's usually a loop of questions, right? Your mind is desperately searching for certainty in situations that are, well, they're human, so they're messy. It often starts with something like, or maybe it's something like this. Your mind is just trying to decode the ambiguity. It wants a simple, clean, black and white answer for a moment that was full of gray. Or this. And here's the kicker. Because there almost never is a definitive answer, because you can't know for sure what they were thinking, your mind never gets that sense of closure. So what does it do? It hits rewind and plays it all over again. That lack of a clear answer is the very thing that fuels the entire loop. Okay, but what if we just flip the script on all of this? What if we completely changed how we see this pattern? What if we stop thinking of it as a bug in our system and start seeing it as a feature? Maybe even a kind of quiet intelligence. Listen, if any of this is sounding familiar to you, I really want you to hear this. You're not broken. Your mind isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to understand. Think about it. It notices things, it remembers them, it's always trying to get things right. And in a world that moves so fast and often misses the details, that has real value. So let me just leave you with this final question to think about. What if all this isn't a problem you need to fix? What if it's just a system you need to understand? What could change if you stopped fighting this part of yourself and just got curious about what it's trying to tell you?